Death is something we wish will happen to us in a respectful manner. For some people that is not the case. From suicide by piranhas to a woman who suffered a stroke after being injected with soup. We count 15 of the strangest ways people have died. Number 15. Suicide by piranhas. An 18-year-old Bolivian picked a bizarre and gruesome way to commit suicide. Police say the intoxicated teen jumped out of his canoe into a stretch of river infested with piranhas, and bled to death after suffering dozens of bites. Police believe the death was suicide because the teen was a fisherman who knew the river well, and was aware that it was swarming with the flesh-eating fish with razor-sharp teeth. Piranhas hunt in packs, stripping a body of its flesh in minutes. Despite their fearsome reputation, fatal attacks by piranhas on humans are rare. Number 14. Soup injection. A woman suffering from a stroke was allegedly injected with soup. Hilda Vitor Marcel of Rio de Janeiro died September the 28th at the age of 88, and her family alleges the death was caused when one of the nursing technicians injected soup into the woman's vein instead of her feeding tube. The family is now filing a lawsuit against the hospital where Marcel was admitted after she had a stroke in late September. She died 12 hours after the injection. Number 13. Unbreakable Window. Gary Hoy, a Toronto lawyer, had the habit of demonstrating the unbreakability of the glass in the Toronto Dominion Centre by throwing himself against it. While the stunt proved successful every other time, this one particular day the glass gave, and Hoy fell 24 stories to his death. It should be noted that the glass did not in fact break, well, except for when it hit the ground, but rather it popped out of its frame. Hoy was right. Number 12. Couple gets freaky in the car. In 1986, a woman was found in Dayton, Ohio, naked and trapped under the corpse of her lover. The couple had been making love in her car, which was parked on the upper story of a garage. During sex, he died, collapsing on her and pinning her to the backseat of the car. By the time she was discovered under his decomposing body, she was suffering so badly from the effects of dehydration and hypothermia that she died within hours of her rescue. Number 11. Scripted death. When do you think is the worst possible time to have a heart attack? Well, during a play in which a character is meant to have a heart attack is definitely up there on the list. Gareth Jones was first seen as an amazing actor and then as a dying man when he had a real heart attack in 1958 that was meant to be scripted. Number 10. Live by the law, die by the law. An Ohio lawyer accidentally shot himself in the stomach while demonstrating to the courtroom how the case's victim might have accidentally shot himself. Clement attempted to prove that a dead man probably shot himself after removing his gun from his pocket in an awkward angle. Clement reenacted the event with what he thought was an unloaded gun, but turned out it actually wasn't, because he accidentally ended up shooting himself in the stomach and killing himself also. But on a positive note, Clement's death did prove the defendant to not be guilty. Number 9. Deodorant Overdose. In 1988, a 16-year-old boy in England passed away from a heart attack after being exposed to too many deodorant fumes. At the time of his death, the BBC claimed that more than 130 people had died after purposely inhaling aerosol deodorant products since 1971. But the boy's death was the only accidental case on record. It seems that he was obsessed with personal hygiene and smelling fresh, so he'd spray his entire body with deodorant at least 2 times per day, and it got so bad that sometimes the family could taste the deodorant fumes downstairs. Number 8. Beer flood. You might think a flood of beer sounds awesome. You'd be right in the literal sense, but a more apt adjective might be terrifying. In 1814, a huge vat of beer at a brewery in London ruptured, which caused a domino effect on the other vats. Over 323,000 gallons of beer flooded the brewery and surrounding areas, destroying 2 homes and claiming the lives of at least 7 people. Number 7. Crocodile plane crash. In 2010, 20 crew and passengers died in a plane crash in the Dominican Republic of Congo. One traveller was smuggling a crocodile in a sports bag, but it freed itself in mid-air and everyone ran towards the flight deck in a panic. The tiny Philair plane was left hopeless and unbalanced and went into a terminal dive. Despite the lack of any technical failure, only 1 passenger survived and the crocodile. Number 6. Death from laughter. In 1975, Alex Mitchell from Kings Lynn, Norfolk, laughed so hard at the Icky Thump episode of the hit BBC comedy The Goldies that he died of heart failure. His widow later wrote to the stars of the show to thank them for making her husband's last minutes of life so happy. Number 5. Beard Trip-Up. An Australian man from the mid-1500s, Hans Steininger's beard was a mere 4.5 feet or 1.4 metres, but that was enough to lead to his death. Hans would usually keep his beard rolled up in a leather pouch, but failed to do so one day in 1567. A fire broke out in his town that day. He reportedly tripped on his beard while trying to evacuate. There are some conflicting reports as to whether Steininger broke his neck or perished in the fire, but either way, it's a very bizarre way to go. Number 4. Death by gaming. A young man from South Korea passed away after a long stint playing the online version of the game StarCraft. The game is popular in South Korea and popular gamers are revered. The 28-year-old man in this tragic case had been playing the game for nearly 50 hours straight at an internet cafe in Daegu, taking only short breaks to nap and to use the restroom. He was rushed to hospital after collapsing but died shortly thereafter. Police believe that the cause of death was cardiac arrest, brought on by severe exhaustion. Number 3. Eviction Plan. Fayal had received an eviction notice he fought several years to avoid and, for a lack of better words, wasn't going to move out over his dead body. Fayal took a crazy amount of pills and then timed a chainsaw to go off once he was knocked out, setting it on his neck as he lay down and closed his eyes. His plan was very effective, as he was discovered 10 days later by the cops and paramedics in a state that I'm sure is still haunting them to this day. Number 2. Woman dies at her own funeral. A Russian woman from Kazan had been wrongly declared deceased by doctors on June of 2012. The horrified 49-year-old began screaming when she realised they were getting ready to bury her. She was rushed back to the hospital where doctors had declared her dead from a suspected heart attack. Now her husband is suing the hospital, saying, "I'm very angry and want some answers. She wasn't dead when they said she was and they could have saved her." Number 1. Handcuffed to a Tree. Richard Sumner from England had been afflicted with the well-known schizophrenia when he decided for the 4th time to take his own life. Sumner, also a gifted artist, handcuffed himself to a tree and threw the key out of reach. His skeletal remains were found 3 years later by a woman out walking a dog in the forest. Sumner apparently tremendously struggled in a last-ditch effort to save his life based on markings on one of his arms.